Before we begin, I'd like to quickly review two items: our code of conduct and event guidelines. First, please take a moment to review our code of conduct. Microsoft Reactor seeks to provide a respectful environment for both our audience and presenters. We encourage engagement in the chat, but please be mindful of your commentary, remain professional and on topic. And secondly, our event guidelines. The session is being recorded and will be available on demand through the Microsoft Reactor YouTube channel in about 24 to 48 hours. I will be sharing the link in the chat for our on-demand content. And if you have not been on a live stream through YouTube before, please note that you must create an account on YouTube in order to have access and interact in the chat. You can set that up now. And if you're unable to use the chat but have questions, feel free to reach out to us through social media or on our website. Which brings us to today's session. Today is episode 10 of the Tech Odyssey podcast. I'm going to bring in our host, Luka, here for today, and our special guest, Michael. Hey, folks. How's it going?
Hi, Alexia. How's it going?
Good, good. Thank you so much for being here for episode 10. We're very excited about that one.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Take it away.
Amazing. Hi, everyone. Thank you for coming to episode 10 of Tech Odyssey podcast. My name is Luka. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Docera Health. Docera Health is an AI infrastructure, a new AI infrastructure that will change the way that primary care is delivered in Canada. But today, I'm not here to talk about my company. I'm here to talk about this new initiative that in partnership with Microsoft Reactor and Microsoft for Startups, are doing called From Founders to Founders. And as part of this initiative, it's of course, except events that we host in Toronto, it's the Tech Odyssey podcast. Tech Odyssey podcast started as a with an ambition with a mission that is very, very ambitious to challenge the boundaries of knowledge and to understand what our leaders made of. So for today's episode and for all the episodes until now, I want to thank Niagara Falls Innovation Hub for giving us this beautiful studio here in the city of Niagara Falls. And for all the startups in the region, please check them out. It's an amazing incubator for you. I want to thank, of course, Valen Entertainment for making this happen. Amazing producing team here with me, and True Designs, Tag and V for doing my t-shirts. Thank you for all the designs that you have made during this week's. For today's episode, we have a very interesting uh, character, a very interesting person, uh, Michael. Mike, you empower Canadian businesses to maximize their use of AI and cloud native applications, fostering growth, creating new customer experiences, and driving innovation. You have experience over 15 years in sales, marketing, and business development, and currently you are working as a national app innovation and AI lead at Microsoft Canada. Also, you are the voice behind Pitch Please, a podcast dedicated to startups, innovators, and the ecosystem that supports them. Michael, thank you so much for being with us today.
Thanks for having me, Luka. Thanks for having me, Alexia. Happy to be on the show today.
So, first natural question for you is: how do you feel? We were discussing about it before. How do you feel being on the other side of the screen? You usually uh, interview startups. Now it's a startup founder who is interviewing you.
I love it. It's I got a little bit more. I'm a little bit more nervous today than when I'm doing all the questions and talking to founders. But I'm excited to be a part of the show and excited to bring some perspective, both from what I do at Microsoft and working with medium to large size enterprises, but also things that I see across the Canadian startup ecosystem and how a lot of the things that I see across those two things fit hand in hand.
So, Michael, how is as part of our tradition in this podcast is creating T-shirts that kind of resonate with something that the guests have or are. And for you, I chose of course, the Microsoft logo. So, how is the experience working for Microsoft, and how did you achieve that?
Yeah, so I've been in Microsoft about 13 years. I would say I've had a very wide diversity of roles, which I think is part of what I love so much about the experience. So I started at Microsoft in marketing operations and genuinely thought and believed I wanted to be a marketer in my career. I think when you're in school, sometimes now more, there's a lot more courses around entrepreneurship and things of that nature. But at the time, there was marketing, there was finance, there was accounting, and finance and accounting didn't feel like what I wanted to do. And so I went into marketing. I quickly learned from lots of people and from my own doing at Microsoft that I had other areas of interest and other skills. And I think that's one of the coolest parts is I knew I wanted to work with tech and work with other companies, which is part of what I love, but also the diversity of experiences. So I've had some cool experiences working on uh, business planning and operations to marketing to owning products like security to HoloLens and mixed reality, getting to work with startup and Canadian innovators across the country for a couple of years on our Azure business and working very closely with Founders Hub. And now I'm getting to work with app innovation and AI. And so that diversity of experience, the amazing people, and the amazing empowerment that we give to other companies of all sizes and being able to be a piece of that has been really special.
In this podcast, one of the goals that I had, especially at the beginning, it was kind of figured out some similar patterns that successful people or people that are very, very well in their industries have. And one of the patterns that I've seen most of them have, it's the role that family or early stages, like role of friendship, role of the environment that they were born and they're raised, has in their adult life. So in this, I wanted to ask you, what was the role of family, friendship, or even environment in your early childhood, and how do you see yourself uh, affected by that in your adult lives and working for Microsoft and working with the startups?
Yeah, I mean, if I go all the way back, I've always been someone that loves playing and trying new things. And so, when I was a lot younger, that was just being creative, and things like art or Lego were very core to things that I enjoyed doing. As I got a little bit older and started in university, I got really attracted to what is possible with technology. At that time, this is sort of the earlier days of smartphones, and so I worked in the telecom space for a while. And part of it was obviously, selling cell phones at that time was a great way to pay your way through school. But as well, I was super curious about how the technology worked, what the new phones and capabilities and features were, because there was so much development at that time, both from a software side and from a hardware side. Now, there's probably a little bit less in the hardware innovation other than maybe battery life and camera, but there was so much change during that time. That part paired with like a desire to sort of be entrepreneurial, whether it was cutting lawns or doing some other side business during school, I sort of had this like creative edge. I loved entrepreneurship or the style of, having some autonomy in what you do. And what's cool is I still get to do a lot of that at Microsoft, even within a big company, which is amazing. I think there was a pretty pivotal moment. I would say, I think it was in second year university, where I had moved closer to residence. So I was living by my university, working full time in cellular sales to pay for school, to pay for my accommodations. And I'm a huge car buff. So whether it was the most wise financial decision or not, I decided to also purchase my first car at that time. And so a lot of things to pay for, which was fine. I was working hard, stacking all my courses in the morning, working full time in the afternoon. But in second year, a friend and I were doing one of those like field marketing type roles, like almost like a mosaic. And we were driving back from a job, and I want to say, most people say you hit the deer, but a deer actually ran into my car on the
Wow.
highway. The deer ran off okay. It's sort of been this like joke that's followed me through life. People like will buy me something related to a deer because there was a very pivotal changing moment then. And that moment for me was I didn't think I needed comprehensive insurance. Comprehensive insurance covers things like act of God, a flood or a hailstorm. And so I was like, if that saves me on my insurance premium, I don't foresee too many acts of God happening. That seemed like a reasonable risk. Turns out getting hit by a deer is considered act of God. And so the $8,000 of damage was not covered. And so I came
Wow.
back to sort of my entrepreneurial roots. And in second year university, started looking at different opportunities to start as an entrepreneur and start a business. And that's actually when I started my first business, was between second and third year with two friends of mine in university, evolving that and eventually selling it before starting at Microsoft. And I think that was a pretty pivotal moment because it was sort of like problem, challenge, look for opportunity, come back to your roots of, being curious and innovative and entrepreneurial, and see what you can do to go solve this yourself and find opportunities and challenges in the market you can go solve. And that was sort of what started my love for startups and kept me so close to the ecosystem for so long.
Interesting. Very, very interesting. I can see the pattern with a lot of other guests that we had here. It's very, very interesting actually. In the end of this season, I'll do a collage of all the patterns that I saw between the guests. Uh, so Michael, right now you are working and you're very, very involved, especially in the AI space. You have seen, like, you have worked for Microsoft for 13 years. How has Microsoft's approach to AI evolved during the years, and what role does it play shaping the industry today, being, I believe, the biggest leader in AI?
Yeah, I think there's AI is a very big word, and people think it's very recent, but it obviously has been around for a very long time, and Microsoft's been involved in that space for a very long time. If I sort of bring it back to what I'm seeing across customers and also where my role fits in, since I'm app innovation and I focus on
Yes.
AI tied to custom applications, but there's also AI being approached in different ways. So what I like to sort of wrap this in is this kind of concept I like to call use it, build it, break it. And the reason I say that is as people start exploring where and how AI may fit into what they're doing as organizations, Microsoft is obviously investing in the infrastructure and the capabilities, but we're doing a couple things. We're enabling people to leverage AI in a more accessible way, and we're also infusing AI into our products. So if I sort of start with the use it, that's where a lot of people naturally are today. And so when I think about the wide range of tools and technology that Microsoft provides, there is not one piece of software that we will build that will not have some form of AI within it. So we call that co-pilots, not autopilots. So the idea is that it's assistive AI within a lot of the software. So whether that is, co-pilots inside of things like Bing Chat, inside of Word, PowerPoint, Outlook, GitHub, uh, any of our different products and scenarios, you have what is effectively an ability to use it and use AI by leveraging something to create efficiencies in your existing workflows and the work that you already do within applications that you might already use. And so those are ones that Microsoft creates. And I like to pause on this for a moment because there's a lot of startups out there that I talk to as well on Pitch Please, or that I'm sure you see and Alexia sees, creating solutions for industries and for companies around AI. And so there's always a very initial moment that companies need to consider, am I looking to apply AI that may already exist to a business challenge I have? Because I'm looking for something that is off the shelf, it improves my productivity and allows me to seek and drive traction very quickly. Um, the next category, if the answer to that is that's not what I'm looking for, is to build it. And build it oftentimes are companies that already have some type of core software, applications internal or externally facing most often, that are part of their core business or core offering. And these have existed before the boom of leveraging AI within your applications. And so for these companies, it's about how do you innovate your roadmap to be including things where AI is a capability or feature that adds value to whatever you offer your customers. So you can either find your existing app, or you can take your existing app and now append AI to those existing apps that are already part of your core offering. And then the last category is break it. And so break it would effectively be what a lot of startups today are doing, but large organizations may also seek to break it. And I say it almost tongue in cheek, which is look for ways to disrupt from scratch things and the way things were traditionally done in some space. So those are new AI innovations. So born in the cloud, born in AI solutions that might be use it for someone else, but for you, that's part of your new build it. And the same for organizations, where maybe they're a large organization where they've already got one piece of software and they decide to build new, completely net new white space opportunity around AI-based solution of applications, or organizations that maybe software isn't their core offering, but maybe they're sitting on tons of information, tons of data, and are able to build a solution for themselves as an organization and for others. And that's sort of like the concept of being a customer and a partner to others at the same time, and servicing multiple revenue streams and diversifying your business. So those are the three things that I see across the country. And it's pretty cool because the startups that come on to pitch please, or that I talk to from Microsoft, or that maybe you see fit into there. But also it's a sort of a plane that embraces the ability for everyone to leverage AI through how Microsoft is approaching it. We're really a piece of contribution into what other people are creating.
So use it, build it, break it. This is the rule. Three rules. Uh, can you share a specific example that you have seen of a company or a group of people doing that within the company that maybe it worked? Maybe I would assume at Microsoft, at your Microsoft experience, most probably.
Yeah. So, I mean, if I think about those that are building it, so appending
Yes,
AI to their
yes,
solutions, I'll speak kind of broadly around it, just because
probably, of
I don't
course,
want to
of
give
course.
too many examples. But I think what we're seeing is that people who have existing applications are thinking about how it fits into the roadmap. Now, transparently, a lot of customers' natural thinking is, how do I apply this to internal things like data?
Right.
And that's maybe a place that a lot of people like to start. But there's so many other areas of efficiency wherever there's repeatability. And so some common examples of where we're seeing these types of solutions is things where you're finding ways to have a more holistic view of your customers, so like a customer 360 type scenario, and being able to search across your entire portfolio of information and data to provide better um, customer experiences. Or that may even fit into one of the other scenarios we're seeing, which is obviously call center operations or call center workflows, and then things around business process and automation. So it's fitting in within their roadmap, and it's different in every scenario. Some of them are internally leaning, some of them are externally leaning. But they often flow into areas around user experience, business logic, integrations, data access. Those are like common areas where you see it show up. And the reality is, there's a spectrum of how people are thinking about it. Some are trying to push the boundaries of like what is possible, and others are saying, where are some of our biggest business challenges, and could AI make us more efficient, more effective, and how can it fuel our top line growth with some more efficiency as an organization?
Yeah, I was actually Microsoft is very, very big, specifically on the UI, UX, the interface that they're bringing. You could see even with Copilot, it was very, very different, right? Uh, and they're trying to see how they can use that in an office space or in healthcare, or which I've seen some of the pilots that they're building. It's very interesting, or even in in finance world. It's a new era of UI UX for sure, and we will see more of it coming in the next months or even next years. Uh, so when we speak about AI, and as you said, is a very broad term. It depends where you want to use it, but startups, they build business models. That's how basically they make money, and that's how they distribute their product. So, how can a startup, and especially an AI startup, be defensible in this market where everyone is building AI? What is that makes you a little bit more unique and more advantageous?
Yeah, so I think when you see, especially in the early days, early days being obviously less than like maybe 24 months ago, a lot of the startups in the AI space we're effectively creating a more focused user experience for a specific audience, layered on top of some type of GPT model or existing AI model, whether that was using Azure OpenAI or OpenAI directly. And they were sort of making the user interface the primary value of their solution. But in the background, the models, the AI were basically the same as anybody could tap into. And so as they matured, some stayed there and didn't add value, and others, to your point, needed to start looking for those competitive moats. And the competitive moats becomes, other than just layering on top of continuously evolving models that are widely accessible to build on top of, what are you doing that is uniquely understanding the industry challenge? And what are you doing to uniquely capture additional insights in your training models? And so figuring out how to bring those two things together or do them separately is super important. So if you're building on top of an existing AI model, is there anything that you are doing with your more targeted audience to fine tune the model to be more specific to your space? And so there's some startups that I've brought on to my podcast that are doing this very well, whether that's bringing and layering in data from multiple sources, layering that with existing GPT models in Azure OpenAI, and then providing incremental value that's continuously learning to the restaurant industry, to pharmacies, to food industry. There's multiple different examples, but I think those that are doing the best work in it are doing a few things: having a very tailored user experience offering that makes it simple and understands their audience, figuring out how to create a competitive moat around fine tuning and data and insights. And then the last is figuring out what other elements beyond just the AI sizzle are going to add value to the solution that they're bringing their customers. And I think that's important too, because most people that are doing it well have a solution that's more robust than just the AI component. AI is a component of a more comprehensive offering.
Interesting. Yeah, you were mentioning your podcast that I was part of it. I was the guest to talk about Don't Share Health. So tell us a little bit more about Pitch Please, and how do you see the innovations that are happening right now impacting the startup scene in Canada, but I believe even in North America?
Yeah, I mean, so I've had a great opportunity. I'd have to
How did it start,
remember
first of all?
quickly,
Because
but
I'm
I think
very
we've done. Yeah, like I think
interested.
we've talked to with Pitch Please. I started focusing on Canadian founders. I did it out of passion to learn about and keep a great pulse on the ecosystem of what people are doing. I think it started with a few referrals of startups I knew who referred me to others, and I naively thought I would, talk to one startup a month, and then I realized very quickly how many amazing innovators we have in the country, and I think we're north of episode 65 or 70 at this point, been doing
Wow,
it for just over a year and a half. And it's been such a wide diversity of topics, some that are solutions for consumers, some that are solutions for businesses. Whether that's, optimizing the insurance industry for event insurance, whether that's, bringing AI and digital innovation to mortgages or real estate transactions or digital health innovations like DoShare, or Treehouse. There's been so many, and I think what's pretty interesting to see is, I would say most, if not all, at this point have great offerings. Not all are software based that I've brought on. I've made sure to try to diversify innovators that aren't just software. But of those that are in the software space, I would say 90% of them have what we talked about, a core product. I think even when we talked, Docere Health has a core product that wasn't built specifically just on the back of AI, but
of course.
similarly, you're embracing where AI fits within the solution that you're providing. You started with the efficiency for primary care providers like physicians, and where and how AI is a capability attached to some of the other things that you were offering. And I think we're seeing the exact same across a lot of these startups. And they're asking that exact same question you asked earlier. They're starting with things that maybe are more basic applications of AI models to their core application. So they're in the build it phase. And then they're looking to extend the capabilities and think about where AI can improve their customer experience, improve the offering of what they're doing, and how do they create that moat.
Of course, it reminds me a little bit in the beginning where we're still kind of imagining or trying different things. uh, I was a big fan of AI, and I told my CTO like, "Hey, we should do AI." And he was like, "No, we're not going to do AI. We're going to build the dashboard, and we're going to build the features first, or we're going to talk to the customers, and then we will understand the values, and then we'll see if AI works or not, right? And that's exactly the point and how it should be done, right? Maybe AI doesn't even have to be part of your startup, of your platform. So you shouldn't do it just to create some buzzword, to create some hype, so you
I
can
think
get some
that's
investment,
Yeah,
because
I think
it's not
that's
going to work.
such a valuable point to your, it's funny when you're talking to your CTO. I think people may follow the buzzwords because of funding means or anything else. But I think
Of course.
starting with the problem is most important, not just riding on the coattails of, oh, AI is booming, we need to have something that is AI. The question is, what problem are you solving? And those founders that have found a core problem and understood their audience and iterated with their audience, maybe that includes things and elements of AI, maybe it doesn't, but starting with the core problem is most important. And that's what helps people become most successful, is finding the product market fit. It's the hardest part for startups. And there's many people that think they've found product market fit while they've just embarked past an MVP. Let me tell you, there's many Series B plus companies, very large companies, that would argue internally they have still not found perfect product market fit.
Yeah.
That means they're continuously innovating, not just adding more features, but listening to their customers to figure out what could they do to make their solution most effective, and working on their ICP. And I think it's really critical to start there and focus there. And the best examples have had very good customer feedback loops as a part of how they build their product.
Of course, and it's a myth that investors invest because they hear the word AI, because especially right now, maybe it was something that would be considered 2 years ago when ChatGPT just came out and became the big hype. But it's a myth that today it's that. I had three investors on my show, Dr. Agustino Mena, Danielle Stretchman, and Nancy Wegg. All three of them told me primarily they invest in business models and primarily invest in companies and startups that stick, right? They have some kind of traction, or they show that it will have some kind of traction. So, dear founders, don't listen to the hype or when people tell you that you have to build AI. Anyways,
So true.
how do you see, Michael? Because you are a very big promoter, and to be honest, I want to congratulate you, and I'm your big supporter when you do this, because you are a big promoter of the Canadian startups in even in the world, right? You are the best ambassador with the podcast, but not only the podcast, but also the work you do at Microsoft. So, how do you see Canada and Canada's startup ecosystem, and what is something unique in it that is especially the AI realms of the startup world?
Yeah, I mean, we've got amazing talent and amazing people. And we have, I would say, on the back of that, all of the founders that I've talked to are very humble and very open to collaborating, and maybe not figuring out how to just, win against their competitor and destroy their competitor. Like, there's a lot of collaboration, either between different types of startups or different industries, and everyone's looking to help. And similarly, like, they're able to work with customers to create amazing feedback loops. So we have amazing talent and tech talent, but we also have amazing people. And I think that's one of the core advantages that we have, is how they collaborate. And because of, maybe it's our proximity, maybe it's our ability to work in smaller teams and not grow maybe as quickly, but they seem to really create great cultures of innovation together. And so the benefit is they can tap into the Canadian market. Oftentimes, I would say a significant number of the companies that come on to the podcast, or that I've seen even at Microsoft, will service, obviously based on proximity, both the Canadian and the US market. But you don't need to move your startup to the US to be successful. You can service both those markets from here, and many do. I think there's some great examples. I think one of my most recent podcasts that I released was Treehouse, who focused primarily on maternal health. And they started in the Canadian ecosystem, but over the last year, I brought their founder Julia back to talk about how they've expanded in their Canadian ecosystem, but also in the US ecosystem, and how those two things can fuel one another. So I'm sure there's lots of things and probably some that I'm missing off the top of my head, but the consistent theme is the ability to collaborate and work together and break down those barriers. And then we have amazing people, tech talent, but also business talent. And we have a very vibrant ecosystem that I love to support and amplify because, as I said earlier, when it comes to use it, build it, break it, one of the things I'm such a big advocate of is everyone sometimes in larger companies just assumes that, they have to build everything themselves. And honestly, those that I see being most successful sometimes just embrace existing solutions that exist and either co-innovate or augment or customize on top of, but they can move so much faster than getting into their own cycles of trying to solve a problem. And the benefit is they get to help a Canadian startup thrive, and in exchange they're also getting something that's not just their perspective, but across the industry, other people that startup's working with are now fueling the innovation that they're taking advantage of. And so how can they work together a little bit more closely? And it's something I'm a huge advocate of. Although I obviously work very closely with organizations to build custom applications and AI, I think it would be a significant miss if companies don't consider that. And we don't think about how to work more closely with our startups instead of just trying to reinvent the wheel every time. We have a benefit in Canada that we can probably talk through a lot of these things and find collaborative solutions, and continue to create an amazing ecosystem that thrives not just in Canada, but globally as well. We should continue exporting all those great innovations.
Very, very good. I'll go ask. It seems like a dumb question, but a lot of people have asked me that, and I really don't know. I don't consider myself an AI expert, even though I've been in the industry right now, or uh, mostly the digital health industry. I would prefer to be called digital health expert than an AI expert. But do you think AI will change a lot of industries and will leave jobs like salesman, marketing, customer service unemployed?
So I'm probably not the best person to answer that. There's much smarter people thinking about it. I think anybody that doesn't think it will have some impact on current state of current jobs is probably not thinking about the challenge and opportunity as honestly as they should. I think there's amazing efficiencies. I think there's really amazing tone in the concept of a co-pilot. So AI as assistive to existing people to create efficiency, and that efficiency will help create top line revenue growth. But naturally, when there's efficiency, it could put pressure on roles or number of roles to service similar amounts of customers. I believe that is why we're managing the ethics around AI, why we're trying to be responsible in how we build and educate and help skill up. I still would love to see more and more answers, and I love and hope there's lots of really smart people thinking even more than I think about what are all of those roles that might be needed and how do we help train up and skill up people to bring them along together. We've seen disruptions in multiple times of innovation. I think this is another one, but I think it's important to manage it properly. I love what we're doing around Copilot. I love what we're doing at Microsoft around responsible AI. But it would be remiss to imagine a world where this isn't going to have some type of impact potentially on people. And so we need to focus on the positives of that and figure out how to bring people along on that journey and upskill everyone around us. So,
Last question for today, Mike.
yeah.
What advice you would give to young people, entrepreneurs, and innovators?
Yeah, I think this one has been one that stuck with me for a very long time. It's from a mentor of mine. Maybe he got it from somewhere else. So if someone knows if this is a quote from somewhere, please relay it back to me. But I think it's the need to focus on doing great work and being good, not just trying to look good. And I think that's so important on the back of our discussions around AI. I think while it's helped create the ability to do things, at scale, even in content creation, I think we see people that are so focused on like the doing rather than like being good and doing it for the right reasons. Are they being authentic? Are they putting their own thoughts into these things? Or are they just doing it because they're trying to create some platform of visibility? And so whether that's at your work, whether that's at your startup, whether that's at a large organization, whether that's with your friends or family. Focus on being great, not just looking great, because it's that depth and that substance that is core to who we are. And it's actually our competitive advantage against where AI fits in.
That's true.
We need to
That's very
actually
true.
focus on developing our own skills, not just, going through the motions. So be good. Don't just focus on looking good. That would be my quote.
Yeah, that would be the quote to end this episode. Mike, where can people find you if they want to chat with you? If there's a startup that wants to be part of your podcast, where can they find you?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I'm totally open for people to connect with me on LinkedIn, although please send at least a note of why you're connecting. I think it is super important when sending connections, if people don't know you, to at least preface why you're interested in following or why you're interested in connecting. But I'm happy to accept and connect with you in message. And I spend a lot of time talking to and mentoring a lot of Canadian startups. Otherwise, they can go to pitchplease.ca slash podcast if they want to listen to any of the podcasts and see some of the amazing Canadian founders that are doing great work across the country. So whether you're a customer of Microsoft's looking to do work there, find me on LinkedIn. Whether you're a startup looking to get inspired by other startups or maybe be featured on the show, or if you're a large organization trying to see innovation, feel free to use any of those. And I look forward to connecting with people offline as well.
No good. Don't just look good. Mike, thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you so much, Luka. And thank you, Alexia, as well, for having me.
So thank you everyone for today's episode. Thank you for listening. Please, we are coming to an end of this season. I would love to have your feedback. You can see the QR code there, the link. Uh, s- Please have the survey, and we want to listen to you. For the second season, we want to do something special. Thank you so much for everyone again, and we'll see you next episode for the last episode of this season with Dr. Christine Allen. Luca from Niagara Falls is out. Thank you.